everybody. I'm David. Welcome to episode number 311 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please like, subscribe, follow, and share the link with your friends. If you'd like to get our curriculum, you can get the paperback or ebook of Matches to Destiny on Amazon. Once again, this is episode number 311 of the A to D from Addict to Disciple podcast, and it's entitled Fear of the Unknown. And this will be the first of a two-part look at this topic, with the second part coming next week. And I'd like to open with a quote by H.P. Lovecraft, an American writer in the early 1900s, who said, "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is the fear of the unknown." Okay, so that fits right into the topic. And the reason why I'm doing this as a two-part series is I see this a lot in the work that I do, the fear of the unknown. But often the guys that I'm working with wouldn't even see it as fear or wouldn't call it fear, I guess. And I see it in all different types of guys. So first, guys in active addiction. They stay in active addiction very often because they don't know what normal life is anymore. Their reality is always being high and the hustle scene of addiction. And they'll say things like, "I started using because I didn't fit in normal society. I don't know how I would fit in now." And really, that's sort of their fear of the unknown of how they would fit in society or if they could fit in society. So they use it to justify not going back. Another group is the guys that I call the functioning addicts. And these are people who are still holding a job, still staying in relationships, still holding a place to stay. And they look functioning from the outside, but they're still using maybe once or twice a day or just weekends, what have you. And they continue using in this dipping and dabbing because they can't imagine life without their little escape. And this is important because this little escape that they use, this self-medication that they use, is something that they're really addicted to, and they say they can't imagine life without it. And for me, that's the same as saying, I'm afraid of what it would look like. I don't know what it would look like, and I'm not going there to find out. The last group of guys that I would like to share about is guys in recovery. And they'll stay in recovery in a rehab, in a sober living house, in a homeless shelter forever. Or maybe they'll become staff so they don't have to leave. And in reality, it's because of a fear of reintegrating in society. They don't know how to reintegrate into their family or society. And in each of these three groups, I see guys avoid the next step of transition and often avoid or miss their healing or transformation because of some fear of the unknown. And there's a phrase that says, the unknown is greater than the known. And I think this is what really seems to fuel the fear of the unknown. So let me dig in a little deeper into what I mean by the unknown and why people fear it. Well, the first is the unknown is huge, enormous. It's vast. It's almost infinite. And just the very idea of the unknown speaks to uncertainty. And for those of us who fear the unknown, sort of fear of uncertainty. But Joseph Campbell, an American writer, once said, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." So let's rephrase that a bit for this topic. This unknown, this vast unknown that you fear to enter, holds the treasure that you seek, holds the answers that you seek, holds the healing that you seek. So we have to take that step into the unknown to really find what we're seeking and looking for. second aspect of the unknown is it's full of risks when we do step into it with uncertain reward. It's dangerous stuff. There's potential for huge hurt and disappointment for ourselves and our loved ones. And it makes us hesitate to say, I don't know that I'm ready to risk that again. I don't know that I want to hurt my family again. I don't want to hurt my mother again. And there's a quote by Brian Tracy, a Canadian American motivational speaker, who said, the comfort zone is the great enemy of courage and confidence. So here I'd like to urge you, if you're one of those guys saying, I don't know if I want to risk it again, it's dangerous stuff and there's uncertain reward, Brian Tracy's encouraging us to say, the comfort zone is the enemy, the greatest enemy of courage and confidence. So if we want to find the courage and confidence, we have to take the risk of stepping out of our comfort zone into the unknown. Another aspect of the unknown is it's unfamiliar territory. And it's totally out of our comfort zone that we talk about. And I've had guys say, I don't know if I'm even capable of navigating that lifestyle. I don't know that I'm comfortable with the idea or knowing that I could even hold a full-time job. It's been so long. I don't know if I fit that 9-to-5 lifestyle. And Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese priest and peace activist, said, people have a hard time letting go of their suffering. Out of a fear of the unknown, they prefer suffering that is familiar. And I find this a lot with guys in recovery, guys in addiction, where they're clinging to the suffering, the regret, the sorrows, the remorse, the guilt, the shame, or the suffering of using and sleeping on the pavement or under bridges or in the bush. They don't want to let go of that suffering because of a fear of the unknown, of getting clean and sober and getting back into society again. That the familiar suffering is actually more comfortable than the vast unknown. The last aspect I'd like to talk about today is that I hear guys say recovery is boring. And so this unknown that you're talking about, David, that's boring too. So how do I get excited about something that's not fun? And Anthony DeMello, an Indian priest and psychotherapist, said, we do not have a fear of the unknown. What we fear is giving up the known. So I want to ask you that too. Do you fear giving up the known that you have, the excitement that you have in using, the going to parties, the always having someone to get high with, always someone to do things with, clubbing, what have you. But as you started in recovery, or maybe you're into recovery 6 to 12 months and you're finding it boring, and you say, how do I get excited about something that's not fun? And I want to challenge you to say, could it be that that's dismantling your fear of making your own fun clean and sober? So as we come to a close here, I'd like to give you a quote by Yvonne Chouinard, founder of Patagonia Outdoor Products. And said, fear of the unknown is the greatest fear of all. That when people were asking him about his climbing these mountains, I don't know which high mountains he climbed, so I won't name them, but, he's a big mountain climber. And people asked him about the fear that can be involved there. And he said, that's not what I fear. The greatest fear of all is the fear of the unknown. And I want to challenge you, if you're stuck with the fear of the unknown, or maybe you didn't even realize it and this episode stirred some questions in you, I want to encourage you to go back and think of those categories. Are you concerned or afraid of the unknown because it's so vast and huge, like outer space? Or are you avoiding moving ahead? Are you staying paralyzed or stuck because the unknown is full of risk with uncertain reward? Are you just sitting in your comfort zone and moving away from where you're at in your recovery would be stepping back into unfamiliar territory? And you don't want to take that chance. You don't even know if you're capable of navigating that territory. Or you want to saying, you know what, recovery's boring. I know I can stay clean and sober, but it's the lifestyle clean and sober that's giving me a hard time. So whichever one of these is you, I want to encourage you to think about it this week and journal your thoughts. As we look at next week's episode, we're going to get into the missed opportunities for growth that have happened because of fear, because of staying paralyzed and stagnant in your recovery or your addiction. We become blind to the truth when we stay stagnant and paralyzed by fear. And the reality is, and this is an anonymous quote, that everything you want is on the other side of fear. And in this case, it's on the other side of the fear of the unknown. Thanks for listening to this episode of the A2D from Addict to Disciple podcast. If you'd like to join a group or send me a message, you can do it at the link in this podcast episode. You can send me an email at davidfroma2d@gmail.com or go to my website, www.from2d.org. Keep listening to future podcast episodes. Make sure you tune in for next week's follow-up to this one. And as always, stay safe and stay resilient.